What's going on, my people? Hello and welcome to another video of mine. It's Kemal AA, and this is another transfer news daily video for you guys, where I'll keep you guys up to date with all the latest Chelsea rumours, Chelsea news in the past 24 to 48 hours. We'll be delving into reports in regards to Rice, Lukaku. We'll be delving into Matt Law's podcast. He had a fantastic podcast. We know the credibility and the reliability of Matt Law. We'll be delving into exactly what he said, Chelsea's first choice targets. Also, some news on Callum Hudson-Odoi. Looks like he will be staying, as I predicted in the previous videos. There will be no swap deal with Sancho involved. He will be staying at Chelsea. I'll be delving into all of that. But before I do, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification. And without further ado, let's get straight into this news daily video. Starting off with Matt Law's podcast. Matt Law, we know that he writes articles for Telegraph, very, very reliable. He's got connections within Chelsea and also Tottenham Hotspur. So usually when Matt Law releases an article, it's very reliable. You know, he's a tier 1 journalist, and essentially he had a podcast with the London Blue Pod. London Blue Pod is a Twitter account. They do free daily podcasts. They bring on Matt Law. They brought on Matt Law recently. They actually brought him on this morning, and go and check it out. London Blue Pod, I listened to earlier this morning. Fantastic podcast. Essentially, the podcast was that Lukaku is the most realistic striker option for Chelsea. Nothing to happen until after the Euros, and Declan Rice is top of the defensive mid list ahead of Tchouaméni and Kamara. Now, starting off initially with the first thing he said in regards to Lukaku, I said yesterday that Chelsea are favourites. You know, Inter Milan, they're in a lot of financial trouble. Yes, they received that venture capital, that investment from that US group of £263 million, but it wasn't enough. It was confirmed yesterday Antonio Conte has departed from Inter Milan because their ambitions don't match. You know, he wants the club to reinvest back into the squad, to bolster some certain positions because he wants to win back-to-back Scudettos. He wants to go on compete on all fronts, especially the European front. And the club's ambitions don't match because the club has got soaring eyeball debt. They got to pay it off and they can't reinvest back in the squad. On top of that, essentially the club wants to sell quite a few of their players to raise revenue in order to allow the club to function and become efficient. So again, as I said, Antonio Conte has departed ways. They've reached a mutual agreement. Antonio Conte is leaving, which of course boosts Lukaku's chance of coming to Chelsea because, as I said before, Lukaku has a fantastic relationship with Antonio Conte. He's left now. Yes, he's happy with life in Milan. Yes, he's happy with being in the Serie A. He's just won the Scudetto. He's a champion. But remember, Chelsea is his home. Chelsea is in his heart. Now, before I give my thoughts, opinions on this, Matt Law said that nothing will happen until after the Euros. Now, this is something I don't personally like. If you're signing a striker, I like my transfer business done early because otherwise it's stressful. Panic buys start happening. The time towards the window increases. You know, pre-season is going to be short because of the Euros. On top of that, the season is going to start. You're not going to get much time to embed and implement the new signings. And if you're going for a title challenge, you want your top signings in early so you can implement them. You can get them adjusted to the Premier League, acclimatized to them, and I presume that we are. It's not good. Plus, added to the fact that if Lukaku is a fantastic Euros, if let's say hypothetically Belgium go on to win the Euros and Lukaku is the main reason for that because he's top scorer in the Euros, that's going to of course increase the price. If we're going to try and sign him for what, 60 to 70 million pounds, they're going to boost it to around 90 million pounds. And of course, even though they're in financial trouble, they've got every right to demand that fee. So again, it's not exactly good news for Chelsea. It means that we have to essentially postpone our business when it comes to striker, which of course is a major priority that we want to invest in. And again, he's not the only one they're after. We're of course after Harry Kane and Haaland, but we know it's unrealistic, especially Harry Kane, because we have a massive rivalry with Tottenham. We just simply don't do business. And in regards to Haaland, Christophe Torreira, again, a reliable Belgian journalist who has essentially all the connections when it comes to Belgium international players. So your Eden Hazards, your Thibaut Courtois, your Romelu Lukaku's. He said, of course, Lukaku is on the shortlist for Chelsea, but so is Haaland. He said that, yes, Borussia Dortmund have secured Champions League football, but don't write the Haaland deal off. You know, Chelsea could still go in for Haaland because he is Roman's dream. Roman really wants Haaland. So we'll have to wait and see. The problem I have with Haaland is two specific reasons. One, there's no need for Dortmund to sell. They've made Champions League football. Therefore, they're going to get that cash injection. They're going to get the Champions League revenue coming into the club. They simply don't need to raise funds anymore. They're not going to have to sell their prized assets in your Bellinghams. Your potentially Sancho's going to be leaving, so they're going to get their funds there. But they've also got the Champions League revenue. and everything is stabilising. Fans are coming back in next season. They're going to get the match day revenue on top of that as well. They are not in a position or desperate to sell. So again, it boosts their chances of keeping Haaland. On top of that, Haaland is really happy with life in Germany. He's really settled. Remember, he's 20. He's really young. There's no rush for him. He doesn't need to necessarily move now. He's not in the prime of his career. He can easily afford to stay another year in Germany, develop his game further, potentially go on and try and win the Bundesliga next season. There's no rush for Haaland. So I don't see, Dortmund is practically being desperate to sell him, which is why it will take a mammoth fee. It will take an astronomical extortionate fee to lure Haaland to Stamford Bridge. But we'll have to wait and see. As I said, it's a case of we might even end up with a situation where we might not even sign a striker this summer. We might experiment having Havertz a false nine, because remember, we put in a big investment in Havertz. Havertz is supposed to be a generational talent, and he's not a number 10, really. He's not a number 8. He's not really a midfielder. He is a goal scorer, exactly. He's not your out-and-out number 9, but he's a false 9, so you can experiment with him. Potentially, this is where the Sancho news comes in. We could potentially sign Sancho, have that creator. You can have your Pulisic, your Hudson-Odoi, your ZX. Of course, Tammy and Giroud look like they're going to be heading out the door. And then you have Kai Havertz in that false 9 position. You can experiment. There's many options that you can do. So, again, keep your eyes peeled, because I'll be giving all the updates on this channel. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification. Now, in terms of defensive mid, this is where the interesting part comes in, which is the second part of what we said in the podcast, summarising what he said. Declan Rice is top of the defensive midfield list, ahead of Tchouaméni and Kamara. Now, Kamara is a defensive mid, 21 years of age. He plays for Marseille. If you guys don't know who he is, he plays for Marseille in Ligue 1. He can play defensive mid. He can also play centre-back on top of that. So he's very, very versatile in that regard. Very good ball-playing abilities. He's not too tall. Relatively short, but he's very agile. He's quick. He's very mobile. Again, different sort of player to Jorginho. Again, if playing a back three, he can slot in that back three. He's a bit of an auxiliary centre-back on top of that. Very versatile, but he's fantastic on the ball. Very, very technically gifted on top of that as well. So a lot of positives. He's young, and he's someone that Tuchel was very desperate for. But according to Matt Law, Kamara is not on the top of the list, as well as Tchouaméni. Tchouaméni has won the Young Player of the Season at Ligue 1. Again, he's had a fantastic season at Monaco. He's been superb. Again, another defensive mid who plays in that double 6 pivot position. Again, very good ball playing abilities, but he's more of a destroyer, more of a box-to-box mid. So he gives a top dimension in terms of characteristics to what we have at Chelsea. Now, Declan Rice is top of the list. Now, what do I think of this? Personally, I'm not happy about this. I just think Declan Rice doesn't suit what we need, and certainly doesn't suit what Thomas Tuchel wants going forwards. Declan Rice has played at West Ham. Yes, he's been superb at West Ham, but there's reasons for this. You need to look at context. He plays at West Ham, where they play counter-attacking football. They play against teams where there's a lot of space. They play on the transition. They don't come up against elite blocks. If you look at his metrics and statistics in terms of ball progression, it is significantly poor. It is really poor compared to a Jorginho, compared to a Kovacic. He's nowhere near the top of the league in the Premier League. He's one of the worst in terms of ball progression. So if we want to change our system and have this philosophy on the Tuchel of attacking football, coming up against teams with low block, dominating possession, you need a defensive mid that's able to progress the ball with ease, ability to progress the ball with confidence, and has the ability and technical ability to do that. I don't think Rice is technical enough to ball progress. Go and look at his statistics. He's nowhere near Jorginho, because Jorginho is a technical player. He's a specialist in ball progression. Yes, he is tall. Yes, he is physical. Yes, he is Premier League proven. And of course, that's going to bring its own benefits and bonus points. But in terms of what we need, he doesn't suit the system. Hence why I'm not too happy about this Declan Rice stuff. We'll have to wait and see. And again, West Ham made Europa League football. They're not in a position to... They're not desperate to sell Declan Rice. They're going to command 80 to 90 million pounds. If you personally ask me, Declan Rice is not worth 80 million pounds. Yes, he's a good destroyer and he's got some good attributes and characteristics, but in terms of what we want to do in the future, in terms of ball progression and what Tuchel wants at Chelsea, I don't think he's the man. I think that Kamara, Tchouaméni, again, there's much better options. Kamara and Tchouaméni will be much cheaper. They're both younger. They're a lot cheaper. They're much more mobile. They're much more better in terms of ball progression. And if you're spending a lot less on Tchouaméni or Kamara, for example, you've got more money to play around with in other positions. And in my personal opinion, I think they're better than Rice. They're better than Rice. They're cheaper alternatives. They're much better. But again, any updates on that will be revealed on this channel, so make sure you hit the bell notification. But what are your thoughts and opinions? Do you like Declan Rice? Do you disagree? Do you think that Rice is the guy that we need? Leave me your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. Thoughts and opinions on Lukaku as well, but into the final story, and it is in regards to Callum Hudson-Odoi. And according to Simon Phillips and many other reliable journalists, apparently Thomas Tuchel likes Callum Hudson-Odoi a lot and is planning for him in the squad next season. Callum is very happy and he wants to stay at Chelsea. Now, again, I predicted this a few days ago. Yesterday on my channel, I spoke about how there could be a potential swap deal between Sancho and Callum Hudson-Odoi. I said that it doesn't make any sense. If you look at it from a financial and logical perspective, it makes no sense for Borussia Dortmund to do this deal, because yes, they're admirers of Callum Hudson-Odoi, but what they're essentially doing is letting go of their prized asset in Sancho on a permanent basis, bringing in Callum, who again I think has a higher ceiling than Sancho, could develop him, etc. But they get nothing in return. They're developing our gem. They're essentially farming our player, bringing him back to us ready-made as a world-class player. And then Dortmund lose both Sancho and Callum Hudson-Odoi in 2 years. It makes no sense unless there was some sort of clause. As I said, Callum is very happy. I was reading reports before that Tuchel has a lot of faith in Callum. He's one of his favourite players. He's got a plan for him in pre-season when we're switching formation in terms of tactics and what we want to do next season. Again, he wants to turn him into an Mbappe, Neymar, which I believe he has the potential to do so. Callum has crazy potential, and I think patience is required for Callum. So this is fantastic news, and Callum is very happy to stay. He wants to fight for his place. He loves Tuchel. So for me, problem solved, case solved. But what do you guys think? Leave me your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. But that is me wrapping up the video, and I'll see all of you guys for my next video. Peace.